Hello, welcome to our weekly transits. And wow, what a week, what a month that we're going to have in April. This is definitely going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be one of those milestone marker months uh, that we'll have. So, we've been watching this, we've been seeing this real close, tight, uh, kind of one stellium after another period of time we're living through, starting, well, we've gotten out of the Capricorn one, and we had some in Aquarius, but like this, the way it's been lining up, it just kind of like one just gradually going into another and then into another. We can see how this is going to progress. So we're coming out of that Pisces time, that intuitive, that dreamy, that dissolving, that very much self-centered. We look at it as being on the left hemisphere. We're also looking at it, it's more of the self rather than others. And it's still above, it's on the above line, where Aries is on the below that middle line. Ascendant, descendant. Thank you. Horizon. My goodness. Anyway, it's still very much about me and how I see things for others. I mean, that's kind of Aquarian, but then we've gone in and then dissolving it because it's in this area of the chart here, the nativity. So that 12th house area is what I'm talking about. It's like similar to what Pisces is like. I mean, we have similarities. They're not the same, but you get the idea. We're hanging things on these nails. And then we're moving into this Aries energy, into this spark, into this creativity, into this newness. And interesting, I'm going to put this Chiron asteroid here. I don't get a whole lot into this, again, because it's complicated, and we can almost state some of these because of well, there's other classical ways. But it's at that exact spot where the sun and moon are going to have the new moon to line up, the solar eclipse. And we see it's really close to the north node, which is why it's eclipsed. I think it's within like 11 degrees or 10 degrees, I think. I have to go back and look at that, where the moon, the sun and moon, or the moon, they line up by the nodes, which will be, the closer it is, the more full the eclipse. And then there's a point where it's partial, and then there's a point where it's just out of phase. It's not seen because it's too far. But anyway, we see that we're going to have a cluster over here, a nice stellium, and then we'll see next month, a lot of as these planets, Mercury, it's retrograde now, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then, the sun will then move into Taurus, and then, you can see the progression of the other inner planets, Venus and Mars. We'll all have this grouping over here, and then we'll go into summer, and it will finally break out of this pack that we've been hanging out it for a while. But nonetheless, it's interesting, and the moon is going to be our timer, our trigger. So, well, kind of starting, like yesterday, April 1st, and kind of in today, Mercury is stationed retrograde, depending on where you're at in the world. It's stationed and or retrograde officially. And it's usually 3 weeks, but just depending on its orbit, how fast and slow it goes through signs, it's going to be 25 days this time, 25 days, and it's going to be going through Aries. So interesting, Mercury retrograde in Aries, in a cardinal sign, with all of this eclipse energy there. So what does that mean? Well, we want to be busy in Aries. The mind wants to be creative and spontaneous and like, let's do it. But it can also get frustrated and pushy, so maybe it's making this mercurial, which tends probably to like Aries anyway, because it wants to think and be out there and have that movement. It's probably making it slow down a little bit. So maybe this, being forewarned is like, okay, this is the weather, and this is how we have to dress for the weather. This next period of time, it's almost 2 months, it's going to be here. So you can see it's been here since what was like I don't know, the 12th of March or something, when it went into Aries. And see, just went retrograde, 27, and then it backs up. I can't remember how far it backs up, and then it goes through its shadow, and then it finally enters new ground. When is it? In May. So, we've been in Aries. It's going to be all month in April in Aries, and then into May, and then it's like, I don't know, mid-May sort of that it turns around. So a long time of, some initiatory energy, and then some sort of frustration. I mean, let's face it, with retrograde, you're gonna want to move on, but it's gonna be like, no, we still have to clear and think this through a little more, or maybe slow it down and consider the outcome and not just dashing off. So that, I think, is the lesson of this, because it's a long one, and it doesn't change signs. So we have that leading the pack, and then we'll have our planet line up right over here, conglomerating at 19 degrees. And watch my next video, and I'll show you how to work with it in your chart. How we can find where the eclipses are, and then find the next parts of the year, because it's every 3 months that it'll resonate. You'll get a square or an opposition to that eclipse energy. So it's pretty easy to find, and I'll show you how to do it. All right. Anyway. That's like today, Mercury retrograde, and then we can also see Venus lining up with Neptune, and it's still, Venus is still a little bit behind her, and it's going to be late tomorrow before it finally does that. So let's just move over there, and we can see, look at, they're moving together. They were at 27, and then now they're both 28, and Venus goes over Neptune. Well, what is that? Think about a few things. I mean, we have the planets, and then we have the signs. And then it's, where it's at in your chart would be the part of life that it's playing out. But Venus, nice, your likes, your money, your loves, your material side, not always, but it's the more material of the planet, and where Neptune is more that dreamy, intuitive, space it out, let it go, dream, pull it in on the subconscious, dissolving type of energy. So when we have those two together, I mean, we're benefics, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. It loves to be there. If Venus isn't in one of her home, her summer home or her winter home, her male home or her female home of Taurus, and her male home of Libra, then she would want to be in Pisces. I don't know, she might want to be in Pisces over that anyway, but it's just a nice honored guest, wonderful place for Venus. Loves to be there. So it's in a nice place for Venus with a nice planet conjuncting. Nice. Take advantage of the intuitive period to learn. This being in Pisces, that's the intuitive anyway. It's sort of like Neptune as it is, and Venus being there is lovely. So take advantage of that just intuitive learning, of pulling in, of feminine, of seduction, of, in a good way. It's like you're not outward manifesting, you're pulling in to you. In that way, of dreaming, of daydreaming, of night dreaming, of intending. But also, when we do that, we leave ourselves a little vulnerable, or we're asking, and it's easy to get bamboozled, schmoozed, conned. So just be aware of that, because any Neptunian influence, even though a good one, could just, too much of a good thing is not always a good thing. So anyway, that'll be happening for a couple days. It's in orb right now, and then you can see here Wednesday they totally line up. Then Venus pulls ahead of Neptune, but it'll resonate a little. So it's like if you were just conned by somebody, it may be a little rude awakening as it passes by. So just be careful of that. Anything that sounds too good to be true usually is. We talked about this last week. All right, moving on. Anything else on Wednesday? Oh yeah, the moon. Okay, on Wednesday, whoops, earlier there. You can see that the moon, I'm not going to back it up to see, but you can see the moon on Wednesday went into Aquarius and went over Pluto. So there, along with this Venus Neptune being exact, moon over Pluto, that's like depth of emotion. That could be a totally manipulative type of an aspect. Yeah, maybe doing it for the wrong reasons, but it's in those are in an Aquarius sign, so it takes on a better bent. I'm glad that they're Aquarius, they're not Scorpio or something, devious or underhanded there, or it's stuck sticky. So this lightens it up a little bit, makes it a little more egalitarian, keeps things out in the light a bit. So there's a push-pull with this, but it's still moon, Aquarius, depth. Yeah. All right, Thursday, we talked about that. Moon is still going through Aquarius. We can see Mars getting ever closer to Saturn, and then this again, this is another oddity. We've got the discipline of Saturn dissolving, it's cold, being Saturn, and then we have the heat, hot Mars, and it's dissolving, and, then they're meeting. You're interesting. Another push-pull. Or anything else on Thursday? We already talked about that. All right, and then into Friday. Friday now, Venus slips into Aries. Rushes past there, and then then pops into Aries. Not a favorite place, but maybe, maybe it just takes on a much better feel. That's their detriment, and it goes from exaltation, the highs, to the detriment, to the lows. Kind of. But Aries is, it could be stimulating, and it gets rid of this, taking the dream and making it into a reality. This is what we're going to see coming up, because we're going to have all of this stuff and all this initiatory energy in Aries, and then things will start to get grounded as we move on into Taurus. So that's the natural progression, the best way to move this forward. Nature made it that way. We have this explosion of Aries, and then all of a sudden it grounds in Taurus. It makes it into something solid. Then it moves out again in Gemini, gets some more information, and then it goes home in Cancer. We have this push-pull, push-pull. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Masculine, feminine, outward, inward. It's a perpetual cycle of energy. And if we learn to ride it and not fear it, that's a good thing. Okay. Friday. What else I want to tell you about Friday? Well, the moon now starts to enters Pisces, and it's going to go over Mars and Saturn. So maybe getting the feelings behind the energy to be responsible, to be adult about something, instead of being mad about something you can't do anything about, or frustrated. So how do we handle these energies, right? It's that dreamy, we're pulling the dream into reality. We're pulling the dream, moon, feeling, Pisces, all this, what we just went through with Venus and Neptune, and then the energy of Mars, that aggressive, forward-oriented, impulsive, creative energy, invoking that. And then that's what happens when Venus moves into Aries. So it's like, it's getting that Martian kind of pull here before, before the whole thing enacts. And then it goes over Saturn, the moon going boop, 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 boop. And going over Saturn, then it takes on its responsibility. I'm doing this for a reason. I'm not just doing this. I'm not just talking out my ass. I'm saying it for a reason, because I love you. I'm saying this because I care about you. I have this heated tone, but be careful. You're not like, nah, nah, nah. It's like, I have this passion. I have this feeling. That's the moon there, and then Mars. And I think it can be easier to reach because it's in Pisces. It's not in the aggressive sign, that Mars likes to be. It's like, this to me is more moon ruled. This little transit trio we have going on here with the moon, on Friday, moon going over Mars and Saturn. I want to think about it in a positive way. We use that, we get that feeling of something and use that energy to bring something to reality. Saturn. Yeah. All right. We'll see how that all goes, right? And then Saturday, my birthday. Yeah, don't worry about sending a card or anything, Anyway, yeah, it's an interesting one for me this year. But anyway, we move ever closer to this eclipse coming up. So Friday, we've got Venus already now into Aries. The moon moving quickly through Pisces. It doesn't move any faster. And then it's also going to, here we just talked about it conjuncting over Mars and Saturn. And then it will conjunct over Neptune before it lines up with getting a little last minute pep talk from Venus before it ventures on into the eclipse. So yeah, so because it's going to be new moon, and just to remind you, as the moon gets closer to the sun, it's getting just a bunch of the light from the sun, right? Anything that's real close to the sun is just burnt out by the light of the sun. You can't see it because the sun is so bright. It's like, if you were to, well, if you look at a sunrise and there's a planet right there, you can't, real close to when the sun is rising, it's really difficult to see. Like, when Mercury's close to the sun, you can't see it there. The sun is just too bright. So that's why we can't see the moon, because the sun is just blurting it out. Or as opposite, when the moon is opposite the sun over here, it's the full moon. That's when the sun's full light is on that body there, whatever it is, and we can see it. So it's getting darker and darker. And if you look at the moon, like today, it's like just a little bit past, it's Tuesday, and this is going to be next Monday. So it's just a little bit past that half moon look. All right, so it's getting a little bit lesser. And then over the end of the week, we'll see the crescent, the beautiful crescent, and then it will slip into darkness. And then the solar eclipse will be where the sun is blocked out. It'll be during the day. Okay, Saturday. So as we move into Saturday, we've got, with the moon we just conjuncted over here, and then the rest of the day, Venus at 2 degrees is sextiling Pluto. So that's making, just at 1 degree, 2 degrees, it's making a nice aspect to Pluto. So that's good. It's like you don't mind looking at the depth. You don't mind hearing the details. You don't mind. It's like, okay, I want that. And yeah, go ahead. And I want to know about the bad this and that. Yeah, okay. All right. So it's that, I think it's that kind of an energy. It's like, I don't mind knowing, it's like when you want something. Oh, I can fix that. Whether you can or can't, it's it's difficult to say, but that's where Venus is, your likes in the initiatory, willing to maybe overlook usual things, it's like you maybe overlook flaws as you look deeper at the true meaning. It's like, well, if that's a good person, they have a good heart, good soul, they mean well, they just screw up sometimes and are absent-minded and they don't remember, but that's a side point from having a good heart and loving you or putting up with your shit, something like that. Okay, moving on. Getting ever closer. Sunday, moon moves into Aries. It moves over. Like we just said, Venus, and then getting closer here. Pretty much that. That aspect. I mean, there's also the half squares, and this is kind of interesting. All the like sextiles and semi-sextiles that are going to be forming between all these things here. Look at this right here, the Sun and Jupiter semi-sextile. So there's, and then the node over here to Saturn semi-sextile. So what is that? Well, we know that all the stuff, here to here, right next to each other, is just kind of uncomfortable. It could be. It's like what? Good fences make good neighbors. It's like maybe being a good neighbor. It's like if you don't make it hard on the other person and you respect kind of what they're into and stuff, then it gets along. But these things could be so different, right? Here you have Taurus. This neighbor is gardening. Jupiter and Taurus, and it's huge, and there's gardens and trees and stuff billowing over the fence into the other neighbor's yard. Well, the Aries sun neighbor might want it neat and not all of that stuff in is getting PO'd because that garden is like laying, or maybe, the trees are leaning, menacingly over into their yard, so, and then that to Saturn over here, this guy, doesn't care and throws garbage out and is sloppy and doesn't care about anything, and then it's like, here's Aries now with, So these are these semi-sextiles that could just be, just like, annoying, disagreeing, because they're so different. Here we got the gardener, we got the trim person, and then here we have the slob. Kind of, the messy, and I don't care. It's like there's more things that matter instead of all that. It's like they're all right, they're all true. But there's that differences. It's stark, almost more stark than an opposition. I definitely strikes me that way for most of the signs right next to each other. So anyway, that's the kind of the hidden irritation within some of this. Having, it's like we gotta like agree to disagree or allow the other person to talk, and not take it so seriously, because and like our attention spans are so short, in 15 minutes we'll totally forget what it's all about. All right, moving into the day, and let's go ahead and do the hours. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, I missed it. What did I do? There it goes. Okay. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go back to the day. Well, 2:30 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, that I had to set for Philadelphia. I don't know why. This is today. I think it was that way last week too. Anyway, look at this nice little lineup. Chiron is there, the wounded healer. What is that? Bringing light up on sharing healing, on getting over wounds. With the moon, feeling, the moon is not the best place in Aries. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. What else was I going to say about that? But anyway, it's an interesting little trio there, and then we've got that semi-sextile over to Jupiter, right, at 19 Taurus, and it's really close to the conjunction into Uranus that's coming up soon. But, we've got this exploding expansiveness here, maybe. In Earth signs, this kind of almost seems like it could be, I don't know, Earth energy, earthquaking energy, Earth upset energy, maybe forced or engineered. Or it could just be, there's also a lot of attention on excitement, all this stuff in Aries, on riling things up, and then there's this undertow or undercurrent, like I was mentioning with the Neptune, putting things, and here's like, got the malefics over here, trying to maybe capitalize on people's interest and excitement, all this up in Aries, interest, excitement, and then confusion, delusion. Let's shit in the punch bowl. Let's mess things up. Let's cause some chaos, with this other energy. And then, we have this exploding expansiveness with trying to be grounded. So it is a very interesting and intense group of energies. But what I'm going to show you in the next video is what I think is even more important, is to look 3 months ahead, and then 6 months ahead, and then 9 months ahead, and see the months, the actual days when the sun will square this point. So why do I be doing it 3 months ahead? Well, that's when it's naturally going to be square. So we have this eclipse in Aries. So we want to look ahead when the sun gets into Cancer, because Aries and Cancer are square. They're both cardinal signs. So we want to look ahead to when is the sun at 19 Cancer? What day is that? And then we want to look, 3 more months ahead when we're in, the opposition of Aries, when we're over in Libra. When is the sun at 19 Libra? And then when is the sun at 19 Capricorn? We want to look at all those days, and we want to look about where the moon's at for a trigger and a timing. And we want to see if there's some other planets involved. When does Mars hit those degrees? Yeah, we might want to note some of that. But anyway, that's the next video. But this is how we use it. This is how we can tell, and different things in the world. But now anything that anybody has in cardinal signs at 19 degrees, and let's give it an orb of 4. So we can say 4 degrees either side. We can go 4 degrees before, so it would be like from 15 degrees to, like 23 degrees. So that anything in your chart from 15 to 23 degrees of the cardinal signs will be more affected, because we'll look at the intensities, the conjunction, the square, the opposition to this. In neighboring signs, or in its own sign, if it's sextile or trine, it's not going to be as impacting. You may not notice anything there. So it could be it could be aspecting a planet or a point. It could be, right on your rising sign, or it could be right on your midheaven, or right on your descendant, or right on the bottom of your chart. If it's right on your ascendant, it's all about you. If it's on the bottom of your chart, it's more about your home or family. If it's on your 7th house cusp here, it's about, partnerships, not necessarily romantic, but some other person or entity or thing, something else. And if it's at the midheaven, it could be about your career or status. Yes, and then if it's aspecting planets in your chart, we have to take that in consideration. And what houses? Where is it? Where is the theme playing out? Where is that axis? Is it the 1st and 7th house? Is it me versus thee? Is it 2nd house versus 8th? Is it my stuff and your or our stuff? My money, our money. Is it 3rd house and 9th? Is it communication, siblings, and higher learning? Let's go over there. Foreign travel, the unusual. Is it 5th house, or is it 4th house? I already said that. Family, and 10th house. Did I get off? I went 3rd and 9th there, and then we have 10th, 4th and 10th. This would be your family, your home, and then your 10th house would be your career, your occupation, how people see you in the world, your notoriety. 5th house, your creations, children. 11th house, groups, or projects that are good for for everyone else. 6th house, 12th house axis in your work, your service, what you do, menial tasks, and institutions, dissolving things, endings, finding a way out. All right, so those are just the different axes that these are on, and whether you have something aspecting a node, a planet, or a place in your chart, you still have it in that area of life. It may not, you may eke out of it not being on anything important this year, not making aspects to anything in your natal chart, or any ascendant, midheaven, what we just went through, but it's still in a place. It's still in those pairs of houses, and it's still going to resonate that energy for you. All right. And I just wanted to mention, we'll come around next week, Tuesday, but what we do have coming up after this eclipse, we have, we can see we're getting awful close here to the Mars over Saturn. You can see it's probably a day or two away from this, right? And then we can also see the sun, 4 days from here, about to go over Mercury. So that's, that's going to be Mercury in the heart of sun. Mercury is going retrograde, so it's going toward the sun, and the sun is going toward Mercury. So anyway, that will be next week. We can see these things starting to happen, and we can see the Jupiter getting really close to Neptune. So we know a few things are lining up. We have several conjunctions coming up, several sign changes soon. The sun will then go into Taurus after it conjuncts Mercury, and then the moon starts wrapping around again. So yeah, look at this. It's really tight. It's going to be this way for a little while until things bust out into Gemini and Cancer, getting into the summer. All right, have an interesting week. Have a good week. Stay prepared. Keep your eye to the sky. And listen to the other video on finding the eclipses in your chart and through the year. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye for now. Hello, this is Astro Breze, and we are going to look at working with eclipses. Understanding that these happen every year. They usually happen in the spring and fall, but not always, but they move around. But they're that access now, and we could have anywhere from 2 to 7 every year. And sometimes they're total, sometimes they're partial, sometimes they're variations. I won't bore you with that other part, but it doesn't always mean that it's a total eclipse. Sometimes when they go across certain areas of land, sometimes just one, sometimes several continents. This year, this solar eclipse, when the sun will be eclipsed, will go over the North American continent. Very interesting. There's a lot of things being said about that the path of its totality goes over 7 cities with the name Nineveh. The other eclipse in 2017 that went over the United States. Did it just go over? I think it just went over the United States. Not sure if it went over South America. I believe it did. It went over a different path, and it went over 7 cities with the name of Salem. There's a lot of interesting things about this. The United States had similar eclipses going over the United States when we were in the Revolutionary War. There was eclipse going over the whole United States, going also the Civil War, going across the United States. I think pretty much just the United States, and then the Vietnam War. And United States, we've been at war for a long time, a lot of wars, but these are bigger wars, and we can see the heating up of war already. But it doesn't mean we have to follow that track. With enough public awareness and love, thought, push on people that shouldn't be there to end this ridiculous nonsense, we can make our voice heard. All right, so whatever it's going to be, it's also going over the New Madrid area. There's, we talked about this last time, there's lots of, I can't remember names, civil people. There's a National Guard, there's troops, they've been getting ready for this. There's states of emergency, whether it's a drill to get ready for something else looming ahead at the end of the year, which we all know what that is, or if it's really something, time will tell. It's always good to be prepared for anything. We're living in tumultuous times, so it's always good to have food and water and resources and a plan and community and being right with God, ultimately having God in your life and your heart. Other than all of that, we're going to look at how to find these and what to do with them. All right, I just drew on paper because I don't have the Photoshop. I don't have the time to get into that at the moment to explore that, but I just drew this out on paper. And what I just did a simple Aries rising horoscope, just the zodiac, and I just put the 0 degrees on every cusp. It doesn't matter, but just so we can see this. So just follow my logic and I'll show you. All right, so we know that this eclipse is the solar eclipse coming up is at 19 degrees Aries, and I'm starting this house here at 0 Aries, so it should be a little bit halfway. All right, so that's my first part, and I put the date. We know the date. It's April 8th. Now, from here, I'm just going to take my little ruler and try to draw a square to where I think it is all the way around. And these would be, it would be like if this is in the first house, the next one would be the 4th house, because that's the square to Aries. This would be the house of Cancer. And I'm going to put it at where I think like 19 degrees would be. It's just a little past halfway. This is just to give you some visual to look at. Okay, then I come over here into the house of Libra, put it there. And then I come up here to the house of Capricorn. This is the 10th house. So now it's like that would be 19 degrees up here. And then I just draw back to Aries. All right, so once I have that, then we'll go look that up in the ephemeris. But I know you're wondering about this other square. This is the lunar eclipse that just happened a week ago. So it was at 5 degrees Libra, which you know, what the lunar eclipse is the full moon, so the sun and the moon were opposite. So I just put that over here, but it was the sun that was at 5 degrees Aries. And then the moon was at 5 degrees Libra, because a full moon is always opposite the sun. But we're tracking the sun right now. So I'm going to just make this one, you know, lunar. I put it in blue. So on this date, 3/25, read my chicken scratch here, the sun was at 5 degrees Aries. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing. And then that's, see, 5 degrees Aries is right near the beginning, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's right here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw a square, and try to get just after, you know, like 5 degrees after the zero. Okay, so then it would be here 5 degrees Cancer, 5 degrees Libra, 5 degrees Capricorn, and then back down to 5 degrees Aries. All right, so we have our our places on the zodiac that the eclipse occurred. All right, solar and then the lunar. Now these other points are when the sun reaches that point of the square to these eclipses is when we can expect other things to happen. That is just a normal harmonic or an overtone of chaos. You know, we want the malefic aspect, you know, want the squares in the opposition, because that's the shit that's gonna hit the fan. That's just gonna be the stuff that's gonna come up. I also want to tell you about that. Trines and sextiles and stuff to those spots, things aren't going to matter. It's going to be nice, yeah. But we want to know, you know, this in the world, in the mundane world, because crap happens all the time. So we want to know kind of when, and then how we can use astrology to find out how things happen. All right, so we got this, and we're going to go find these dates. All right, so we're gonna go look for 19 degrees. And then 5, we're going to just do one. We're going to do the sun. We're going to do 19 degrees all the way around. And then you can do the same with the other one if you're so inclined. See, and I have the dates written on here, but not to worry, we're going to go look that up. So let me stop that share and get you the ephemeris. So we're going to go to our trusty ephemeris. They're online. Easy to find an ephemeris if you don't already have one. So ephemeris is a daily, you know, it's month by month, goes year by year by year by year by year by year by year. But anyway, each month you'll have the daily trek of the planets. And you'll see the date on the left. You know, this is April 2024. This is at Greenwich Mean Time. Anyway, you see the date here all the way down the left, April, 30 days. And then you see the glyphs of the planets along the top. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus. These are the order they go out from the sun, all the way out to Pluto, and there's the node of the moon right there. So, sun, on April 1st, the sun is at 11 degrees Aries, right? And the moon was in Sagittarius. Mercury's been slowing way down. Look, it's 27 degrees. It's been 27 degrees. I mean, I should go back the month, but here's at 27, and you can see it changed colors, that it went retrograde, like on today, the 2nd. Anyway, you can see where all the planets are if you know these glyphs. You can see, even if you don't, you can see they're somewhere. I mean, if you don't know that these are Pisces symbols here, 1, 2, yeah, you know that it's somewhere that we can track. Mean longitude. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go look for when it's at 19 degrees. See, and this is just rounding up. It was, you know, it was on the 8th, but it's just the way it is, you know, because this is Greenwich time. But anyway, we're just going to go get the date each month. So in your time, we could always adjust this. Like, we know that we could adjust this probably a few hours back, and then it would be right on the 8th. So don't get tripped up about that. All right, so we know now that it was like the 8th, and then just have the 9th. April is that eclipse. Now we're going to go, let me move this bar. We're going to go ahead, May, June, July. All right, so we're going to go in July because we know that's going to be square to Aries, and we're going to go look for when the sun is at 19, and it's here on the 11th. So on that little thing that we drew, when we're over there on the Cancer side for the solar eclipse, you're going to write down the date of July 11th. So we know July 11th the sun will be square to where it was on the eclipse, on the solar eclipse on April 8th. Now, while we're here, let's just see where other things are. Let's see if there's anything else. We could see that Mercury will be in Leo. So as it's going through Leo, let's see, when it's at, like here, like in the middle of the month, like 15 degrees, it'll be almost, look, it's going to go 2 degrees in a day, but it will be trining that area. I mean, I'm just looking for the degrees right now, and then we'll see what aspect it is. But that's interesting to just note around that time that we'll have a good aspect of communications, maybe. And then here's Venus. Look at Venus. Here, look on the 3rd. Venus is hitting that point. So we might expect some disappointments or something, something in the Venus area squaring those points, because we've got Venus at 19. Nothing else is hitting the points here. Okay, then we're going to go to October, and we're going to look for when the sun is at 19 degrees, and we see here on October 12th, it's right there, 19 degrees Libra. We note that as well. And that could be another potential, this will be the opposition from this solar eclipse, and to expect maybe something then. Now we can also look at the moon as a timer or trigger to see when the moon might be hitting any of those cardinal points too, if it's around those times. And here it's like a couple days later, moon moves through Aries, so that might be very interesting here. And here we're getting closer to the election time, so this may be an interesting trigger or date or time. Right here, anywhere this like, from like the 11th to, I'll say like the 18th, right in here is just an interesting time. Let's see what other planets are doing. We have Venus in Scorpio. Oh my goodness. So look, Venus is in Scorpio on the 9th. That's just interesting. Another detriment place. Mars, oh look here, Mars on the 10th. Oh, this is interesting. Mars will be squaring that 10th and 11th. Oh wow. Okay, so here it's like even closer to that time. Mars, planet of action, aggression, in Cancer, not its best place, but it could be very patriotic. Will be squaring that, squaring this Libra, the sun in Libra, and then it will be squaring where it was in Aries. Okay, so this could be potential time here in October, like 9th through here when the sun's actually at the 12th, through like 13th, 9th through 13th would be some funky times to mark in your calendar, to be aware, let's put it that way. And then let's go look at the 9-month mark right after the election. Let's go look when we're in Capricorn. All right, so January 10th, when the sun's at 19. Not as strong as the last one, as that, but let's see, well, no, Mars is over here before that. Yeah, I think we're going to crescendo. I think the July ones and the October, I think the October one might be the worst, or just because, I don't know if that's the right language, is just because we have Mars lining up so closely to this degree around the same time. And there's, we have, right on the right, where is it? Yeah, on the 12th, it's like we've got it at Libra, we've got it lined up cardinally. So here's the sun at that 19 Libra, and then, which is opposing where the solar eclipse was in April, it would have been here. And then we have Mars a couple days before, just right there at 19, squaring it at 19 Cancer. So this is how you do it. And we can go through and do that same one to the moon ones. I'm not going to bore you with it, but there's also a couple of really good books on eclipses. I like the exact titles I'm not sure, but Rose Lineman, she's written several, and she's even written one on your prenatal eclipse. Oh, that's the other thing I want to tell you about. Let me just make a note here while I finish telling you about prenatal eclipse. And Judith Hill, really good books on eclipses and also the moon nodes. Very, very good. And they would tell you, it's like if the eclipse is in, like for me, it's in Aries, all right? And I look at my chart where Aries is. For me, a lot of it's in the ninth house. It's in the ninth house. So I read the solar eclipse in Aries, and then I read the solar eclipse in the ninth house. And then you look and see if it's aspecting. It's also conjuncting my sun. So I'll read, the solar eclipse conjunct the sun, and you get an idea, how these things affect you, because they're lasting and they're important years. Prenatal eclipses. Every 6 months, you see, we have eclipses. So when you are in utero, you will have gone through a eclipse in your mother's womb before you're born. You're here and you experience that, and it's very, very interesting, because those points, they're going to be close to your nodes anyway, your eclipse nodes, but they are very interesting points. And when certain transits hit those points, those are important in your life, depending on what it is. When eclipses hit those points, those are definitely important years. So anyway, it's good to know. And you can find, if anything's on your prenatal eclipse, solar or lunar, and track it this way. I just thought I'd throw it out there for more advanced astrologers, but it can be done easily. So anyway, this is, anybody can do this. We're looking at the effects of these eclipses, and we're going ahead to see when they are going to be making squares and oppositions and squares again. Good to know. Again, we can see the other planets, lining up at that time. And whenever we have more of those type things, it tends to trigger more action, more of that. And let's see here also, the North Node would have moved to 5 Aries, which would be opposing that eclipse that was the lunar eclipse that was happened last week at March 25th at 5 Libra. So my guess is this is going to be a very important date, because we have several things lining up to indicate so. All right, I hope that helps, and I hope that you can look in your chart and find some of this. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.